Oleksandr Usyk, I think, should retire. I personally do. I think he should call it a day. He's clocked the game in boxing. He's completed boxing, essentially. You know, he's done everything you can do as an amateur, European champion, Olympic gold medalist. He turns professional, and then in his 10th pro fight, he goes and he wins his first world title, the WBO Cruiserweight world title, against a good champion as well. It wasn't like Oleksandr Usyk in his 10th pro fight took on a weak champion. He took off Krzysztof Glowacki, who was coming off wins over Marco Huck, who was a long reigning champion, and a win over Steve Cunningham, who was coming near the end of his career, but Steve Cunningham was still somewhat useful. He was still a tricky night's work for any guy. And that was Krzysztof Glowacki, a much, much fresher Krzysztof Glowacki. And he fought him actually in Poland. He fought him in his own backyard, Krzysztof Glowacki's backyard. He then goes and he fights Thabisa Michunu, South African cruiserweight. Very slick, very awkward-ass Eddie Chambers. He beat Eddie Chambers. And he beat him 3 months later. That was on the undercard of Bernard Hopkins, Joe Smith Jr. Then he goes to America to fight Michael Hunter, who we know now, that win has aged very well, although Hunter hasn't. A very tricky fight early on for Oleksandr Usyk, but he came through it. Michael Hunter's backyard. That's not an easy voluntary. That's not a gimme voluntary. He took on a tough challenge there. He then enters the World Boxing Super Series. He fights Marco Huck in Germany. Huck was faded a little bit by that point. I have to say, he was faded maybe a bit more than a little bit. But he was not the Marco Huck who fought Povetkin. That Marco Huck, he wasn't that. Right, he wasn't that, but Usyk still demolition job on him in Germany. Marco Huck's German. He then goes to the semi-finals, fights Myris Briedis, an all-time great cruiserweight champion. Really is. Ask Jay Apataya, he knows all about Myris Briedis. Even though he's won twice, he knows how tough and how good Briedis is. Fights him in Latvia. Razor close fight, but does nick it, and he legitimately won that fight. Meant to actually do the final, was actually meant to be in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Didn't happen in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. They moved it to Russia. Why did they move it to Russia? Well, I actually don't fully know. But who was he fighting in Russia? Murat Gassiev. Murat Gassiev's Russian. So he's fighting Murat Gassiev in Russia in the final. Schools him. Wins every round. Which he literally wins every round apart from maybe round 3. I think Gassiev did a little bit of good work in that round, if I remember correctly. I think he hit Usyk with a big right hand in that round. Not a noted right hand puncher though, Gassiev, more a left hooker. But Usyk does that. Can move to heavyweight. No, leave no stone unturned. Fight Tony Bellew. Fights him in the UK. Not in Liverpool, in Manchester, but there you go. It's not that far away. Beats Tony Bellew. Shez Witherspoon heavyweight debut. Yeah, just get your feet wet. There you go. Fights Chisora a year later in the UK, albeit behind closed doors. Fights Anthony Joshua then a year later. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Everyone cheering for Anthony Joshua in Anthony Joshua's backyard. Rematches him in Saudi Arabia, where he was really kind of the away fighter, even though he was coming in as the champion. That was that. Has his homecoming of such in Poland against Daniel Dubois. Then has to travel to Saudi Arabia again to fight Tyson Fury, who was the A side. And despite what Fury would say, he was the A side in both fights, beats him both times. Then, over the course of the weekend, he fights Daniel Dubois again. This time, though, it's not a homecoming for Oleksandr Usyk, although it's a second home, he said by his own admission at this stage. Now, the UK, it is still the home of Daniel Dubois. This is what he's done. That's clocking the game. Oh, by the way, when I'm mentioning those fights, undisputed cruiserweight champion, 2-time undisputed heavyweight champion, Muhammad Ali trophy, there's literally nothing else to do. I think the man needs to retire, and I think what I've just said there, that is an all-time great, without even question, resume and legacy. So I think he needs to bow out. But the interview he gave with Ade in the ring on Saturday night, he didn't categorically state he'd retire. He said he's going to go home and rest. He deserves a rest. He's earned the rest. But we don't know necessarily what he's going to do next. I've said I think he should retire. But if he does carry on, what are we thinking? Who do we think he should fight next? Now, I've already recorded a video. It might go up first. I might put this up first. I don't know yet. On Tyson Fury, because he's still trying to peddle this narrative that he beat Oleksandr Usyk both times and he won the trilogy fight. I don't want to see a trilogy fight with Tyson Fury unless he goes out and he earns it. If he earns the trilogy fight, If he returns to the ring and he fights a Joseph Parker, an Adja Kabayel, and he becomes mandatory, fair enough. Fair enough. There you go. You've earned it. I won't gripe about that. 100%. I don't want to see him just jump the queue. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a trilogy with Anthony Joshua, who certainly hasn't earned it. I don't want to see a trilogy with Derek Chisora, who technically, although I'm not even going to go there with Chisora, because is he IBF mandatory? Is he not? What's going on there? Don't know what's going on there. But I don't want to see a trilogy with Derek Chisora. Although saying that, as much as I don't want to see it, because these are the names he mentioned, with respect, Chisora has probably the best claim to have earned a title shot out of those three names. He does. Because Joshua's coming off the back of a devastating loss. He's not fought for almost a year. It'll be over a year by the time he does fight. Tyson Fury, back-to-back loss to Oleksandr Usyk, doesn't deserve a title shot until he goes out and earns one. At least with Chisora, Gerald Washington, Joe Joyce, and Otto Wallin, at least he's got some wins together. And he's fought some ranking fights. So I will give him credit in that regard. He has earned at least to be in the conversation for a title shot. As far as I'm concerned, for Oleksandr Usyk, there are only two people who he should be entertaining. One is Adja Kabayel, who's become a real dark horse in the heavyweight division with wins over Arslan Bekmambetov, an injured Frank Sanchez, but Frank Sanchez nonetheless, and then goes and he took out Zhilei Zhang back in February. Or Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker, I think, does deserve it more because, and I'll tell you why, he's been interim champion longer. He's been champion since March of last year. I was actually just checking today. It was 500. It's something like 500 days he's been interim champion for. Been interim champion longer. He was meant to get a crack at the IBF title in February. No fault of his own. It was Daniel Dubois who pulled out. Legitimately sick, I tend to believe. But he deserves a title shot. He's long overdue. The WBO is next in terms of what's going to be called. Joseph Parker was there on fight night. He spoke to Oleksandr Usyk. That's the fight I want to see next for Oleksandr Usyk. Joseph Parker. At the end of the day, as good as Usyk's run is, and the run I mentioned to you there is just, when I talk about it, you can just reel it off your head because it's just phenomenal. It just sticks with you. There's a lot of rematches in there. There's the same guy repeatedly. There's Fury twice. There's Joshua twice. There's Dubois twice. I want to see something different. I want to see him fight Joseph Parker, who is arguably, now that Dubois has lost, hear me out. Dubois lost. Usyk is number one heavyweight. Who's number two? Is it Kabayel? Is it Parker? At the very least, we're looking at number two and number three in the division. And one of them has a claim, well, both of them have a claim to a title shot, but one of them is who Oleksandr should be fighting next. You're fighting number one and number two in the division, or number two and number three, whatever order you want. I would put Parker in at number two, and I think he deserves his shot as well. I think Kabayel is probably a more interesting fight. Might even be a better fight than Joseph Parker, actually. But I would like to see Parker get his shot. I think he's earned it. They're both with Queensbury. I mean, in theory, you could maybe get them to fight each other. It's both with Queensbury in a kind of an interim consolidation fight as such. And the winner fights Oleksandr Usyk. But that's, if he sticks around the boxing, that's who I want to see him in there with. Parker or Adja Kabayel. That's the way he should go. He shouldn't be entertaining the trilogy fight with Tyson Fury under no circumstances, nor should he be entertaining the trilogy fight with Anthony Joshua under no circumstances. I would not be happy with a Chisora trilogy. Personally, I wouldn't. But I could look at that and say, right, at least Chisora has a couple of wins. At least he's gone out and done that, as opposed to the other two. As opposed to the other two, which is not going to happen. But at least with Chisora, I could say, okay, he's got a couple of wins together. I could maybe, allow it, but I don't want to see it, but I could have more. I could accept it a lot more than the other two. Kabayel, Parker, they're the two next. One of them should fight Oleksandr Usyk if he doesn't retire. And me personally, I think he should retire. Again, what is there left to do in this game? Money? The man's a generational wealth. It's generational isn't even the word. I mean, that family is going to be set up for centuries almost, you would think, with the amount of money he's made. So what else is there to do? You look at someone like a Lionel Messi, and obviously that's a team sport, but When you won the World Cup with Argentina, you're looking and you're just thinking, well, what's left for you to do, mate? You've won La Liga, you've won in France with PSG, you've won the Ballon d'Or several times, maybe 6 or 7 times now. You've won the Champions League, you've won the Copa America twice, World Cup. Nothing left to do. You completed it. It's like that with boxing with Oleksandr Usyk. Gold medalist in the Olympics, top of the amateur game, undisputed cruiserweight champion, 2-time undisputed heavyweight champion. When you have even though you've beaten a lot of the same guys, Dubois perceived number 2 in the division, Fury perceived as number 1, number 2 in the division, AJ when you fought him perceived as number 1, number 2 in the division. You beaten the guys. What's left? There's no need. I'm just thinking there's no need. There's no more. What else is there left to do? So I'd like to see him bow out, but if he does, has to be Parker or Caballel, surely. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, people, smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, peace.